Welcome back to another episode of the BlueWhite Tailgate Pawcast. Frank Bonanni, the York Daily Record, Mike Gross, the Gross Rational Product, and myself, Andrew Calista, taking you through some Penn State topics here in early June. Guys, can't believe it is already June. Kind of a quiet time, but yet still things popping nationally with meetings going on. College conferences are crying poor as they talk from these luxury resorts where their summer meetings are happening. We got NIL controversy. We're going to talk a little bit about Chaz Coleman. James Franklin talking about his time at Penn State still with our friend Adam Brenneman. A lot of things to get to. First off, I got to apologize to all the listeners. One, thank you very much for being loyal listeners, loyal followers for Mike, Frank, and myself. I go on vacation, guys, and I get a text when I'm in Yellowstone National Park. Yo, the podcast only uploads 39 minutes. Where's the last 20 minutes of the podcast? Technical difficulties. I apologize. What you missed on last week's episodes, we're talking Lane Kiffin and his comments about Ole Miss, which we're not going to rehash here. You could just read what Lane Kiffin had to say. Also, you could get the episode on Spotify if you missed it on YouTube. The last 20 minutes are there. And Mike Gross and myself debated how live golf is changing the world, making the world a better place and changing golf forever. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah, the dissolution of live golf and making the world a better place. That's correct.
So that is a podcast in and of itself. We'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, check out Spotify if you missed the ending of the podcast. Want to thank everybody for the interaction. Yes, Frank Bonanni had a great comment about me. I would have left James Franklin on the tarmac at UCLA. I would have given in the Lane Kiffin treatment, as we talked about when it was appropriate to fire Coach Franklin. Let's get to that, though. Coach Franklin was fired. Steve Sarkisian out of the SEC, who's feeling the heat. He's made more comments about Indiana, which points to he's feeling the heat at Texas. You know, Texas doesn't like, not bringing home championships. They put a lot of money into their program. Sarkisian says, I'm not sure, what our game is supposed to be, what we're becoming when I watch a coach that went to the college football playoff semifinals and then he's fired 5 games into the regular season. Fact checked, it was 6 games into the regular season. And also we talk about trajectory. So what do we make of Steve Sarkisian comments? I think he's sadly misinformed of the entire Penn State situation. He should worry about what's going on with the horns up or horns down there and Texas A&M rather than worrying about what's going on at Penn State.
Sarkisian is under a lot of pressure. Texas has all the money and all the resources, and he's apparently has recruited brilliantly, and he's considered a terrific X and O coach, but they haven't quite got got even that close to the finish line in terms of what everybody wants, which is to win the whole thing. So I think he's feeling a lot of pressure. He's been very mouthy this offseason for some reason. I don't know. Very uncharacteristic of him as far as I remember. I don't know what's going on there. But you're right. It's easy to say, it's easy to look at these things from 30,000 feet. It's a little more nuanced to look at the details. And there were a lot of details that led to the firing of James Franklin.
Right. And I think even at the time of the firing, there was a lot of national talk about how could you do this because of what they had done the year before. It just seemed, even at the beginning of it, it seemed like people would kind of ignored the circumstances.
Yes.
They were, I don't know if you'd say they're unprecedented. They were very highly unusual and unexpected, but they were what they were. Whether you go and you beat 2 suspect playoff teams the year before and get to where you did or not, you still have to deal with what comes after that. And I don't know, it seems like a lot of people didn't really nationally.
And not only that, you're right, Frank, but not only that, but let's talk about the big picture a little bit. James Franklin got fired. Penn State came out the other side with an excellent coach. I mean, if we're going to bottom line it, let's bottom line it. And James Franklin got a really good job. He landed on his feet, and a couple weeks later, he goes on College Game Day and gets the most sympathetic, interview from that panel that anybody could ever have. So it wasn't like James got tossed into the dustbin of history. It turned out fine. It is what it is, and it's not that big a deal. But Sarkisian, I think, probably feeling a little heat right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a backhanded compliment to Indiana. He says, like, we can't adopt and do everything the way Indiana does. So, which is true. Not everybody can do it, but in a way, it's like it's Indiana. Like, do you expect them to build brick by brick by brick like these blue blood programs have? No, it's not fair to hold them to the same standards. Like, what would Michael Irvin say about the U at Miami? We're a microwave dynasty. I think that was a Michael Irvin quote. If it's not, it comes from the 30 on 30, the U, about them, Miami being a microwave dynasty. Well, it's kind of in the same way.
By the way, that 30 for 30 has been rerun on television more than freaking Shawshank Redemption.
Love it.
Anyway,
I love it.
I must have seen parts of that 25 times.
Yeah,
anyway.
I love that. I love that one.
It's very good. Yeah, it's excellent. It's excellent.
One of my favorite Penn State games is, I won't want to say featured in that, but the Tony Sacca throwing up game down at the Orange Bowl. They flashed a score on the screen, and it's like, if Sacca's not sick, Penn State probably wins that game. And,
I've seen parts of Shawshank way more than that 30 on 30. So,
what's your favorite?
I have not.
What's your favorite part of Shawshank?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was good.
What's my favorite part?
Yeah.
Oh, what's your favorite? I'm sorry. What's your favorite
part of the show?
I think the very end is cool, where they're building he's building the boat, and here comes the boat. That was cool.
Just the interactions between the main actors in there, going to, it's time, you better get, it's time to get living or time to get dying,
There you go. There you go.
Morgan Freeman telling the parole board. And then going on.
Yeah, very good. That's good.
Yeah, that's right.
There and trying to say all the right things. It's almost like a job interview, and like soft skills here and everything else. Like, oh, everything's going to be polished and everything else. And he goes in and just lays down the truth. It's like walking in your boss's meeting in a local news affiliate and lay down the truth about why your ratings are diving. Somebody in local,
I feel you. Dog.
So, yeah, you mentioned the sympathetic interview that James Franklin had on game day. Agents play a lot into this entire thing that went on with Penn State last year.
I gotta believe they played a lot into that.
Yes, and that's not, covered a lot because no media member is pretty much going to cover it who needs access to these people, because then you're just not going to get the access to them. And I think James Franklin is in the perfect place for him. I didn't think James's ego would allow him to take a job that is viewed as a step down, but he did, in national perception. And I think that's going to be a perfect place for him the more I think about it, rather than wait for the Florida State job to open. And that's another high pressure win now type of job, especially in this era. And getting back to what Sark said about Indiana, and not everybody could do it right the way that's being done. When are these coaches, and obviously Saban couldn't do it, can the coaches even do it? Let me phrase it that way. Can the coaches push back at all on any of these boosters and say, cool it with the money? I'm going to use this as a segue into the whole Chaz Powell saga that's going on at Indiana, but cool it with the absurd amounts of money, valuations of over $30 million for a roster with these kids, to not only ease the pressure on the kids, because if it takes a few blue bloods to back down on their prices, well, then maybe the schools that don't have as much as these blue bloods, the price begins to come down and maybe things become a little bit more, I don't want to say normalized, but within reach, because I don't see how much longer this can continue, especially when you're talking about Congress getting involved and people pleading for Congress to get involved. I saw an article, Congress needs to get involved on NIL and conferences. You do not want the government running anything in the college world.
Well, a couple things. The bill that I've read about that's being played around with is would sounds pretty good in that it would create some guardrails for transfer portal and NIL, just in that sense. And other than that, I don't think. It's one of those bills that this would not prohibit the NCAA for doing A, B, and C, which is a way of bypassing litigation, right? If they try to put this stricture on NIL without legislation, well, then let the lawsuits begin. Well, that's what this bill is to me. It's a way of getting around that. And that's okay. Nick Saban, you may have noticed, went to Congress to testify in favor of the bill. Supposedly, the Big Ten and the SEC are opposed to it, but the other conferences are in favor of it.
The SEC and Big Ten, they just want to be by themselves.
Yes.
And I don't like that. I mean, do you really want that as your college football world? So,
yeah.
How would that even be possible, Frank? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the parameters of that.
Well, I mean, it's a good question. No, there's so many logistical. I mean, what if somebody wants to transfer from the Big 12 to the Big 10? Or vice versa? Is that going to be allowed if they have their own rules? And I mean, Georgia's talking about the SEC should just secede from the union completely. Come on, let's pump.
And traditionally, I think that stuff happens in South Carolina at Fort Sumter. So coming from Georgia, I mean, it's
Fort Sumter reference.
A little
About
bit different.
time for Fort Sumter reference.
Nick Saban's a big proponent of this. So with Nick Saban talks in this day and age, does that matter? Does that resonate? Do you think?
I don't know. That's a good question. It may resonate with some people in Congress. I don't know if there's enough people in Congress. Supposedly, if I'm reading this correctly, there's more support for this in the Senate than there is in the House. And that's it, because the Senate the House tends to be all over the place, more politically, as we know. But and then the other thing is, some people are opposed to it because they want the legislation to say something about the players being formally seen as employees. That seems to be a big piece of it too, which some people are opposed to. Some people in Congress are opposed to and want to see the bill prohibit, I think, the players being employees.
And I think it faces uphill battles in the House, just because, Mike, as you mentioned, with the House being a wild card, and yes, I do work a little bit in politics. Now, the Senate has more decorum. The House is more of, the fireworks. And there's just so much ideological differences within the House, where you might have a hardcore conservative saying government doesn't belong in doing this. And at the same time, you might have a very progressive person in the House that says, well, they need every single protection of a union that's possible. And it's never going to go anywhere with the amount of votes that could possibly happen, because that's going to turn off even more people on the right. And then the person on the right that's like, no guard, like as little as possible, is going to turn off people on the left to form a majority. Am I kind of explaining that right, Mike? You follow.
Well, you are, but here's the thing. How many people do you hear? I hear this all the time. There has to be some limit on this. There has to be some guardrail. I hear people say this all the time at the gym, everywhere I go, and they tend to be the same kind of people who would generally, maybe politically, oppose government interference in anything. But in this particular instance, the implication of what they're saying is they're in favor of some government interference.
They feel their sport is slipping away, and it's good.
Yes, correct.
And if anything, I don't know how much people truly care, but Nick Saban and others make the point that other sports are going to vanish. That's their prediction if this happens. Penn State has how many? 30-some varsity sports, for example?
What happens, Frank? If
this bill doesn't get passed, if things don't get put into control, yeah, that's what he's warning. That's not the only thing, obviously, but, I think people are concerned that what is this going to come to be? Is it going to be just who has the most money? And that's what the whole point of this is it simply who has the most money is going to be the team that can truly compete for a national title, and what happens to everybody else? Because at least now we have this sense that, well, I guess that's kind of where we're at now in a way. But
I don't think Indiana
not exactly.
but
not exactly. And the idea, I think people, and Penn State has these guys too that have played for 4 and 5 different teams already in their careers. I mean, this would limit that, right? You would get one transfer without penalty. Penn State, and I don't know if should be restricted, but people are leaving schools because of money. I think that's a lot of what it is. It's not that they're just leaving because it's their choice. I mean, Penn State has guys on their team that have been, their wide receiver, Chase Sal, how many schools is this his 4th school? Is Penn State his 4th or 5th school? I mean,
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was 3rd, but I didn't know this. Yeah. Okay.
I think it might be his 4th.
But that doesn't change your point. I mean, right. Yeah. It seems wrong in a way that eventually might make people walk away from it, or at least their fandom get a little bit less intense. It seems like that, but maybe not. I don't know. The TV ratings are still good. I don't know.
But if people, I guess the concern is if people stop showing up at a lot of the stadiums, I'm not even saying Penn State, but a lot of the stadiums, where's the money going to come from?
Yeah, that
be able to support anything, right?
I gotta believe that could happen.
And the thing is too okay, so they stop showing up at the stadium. Eventually, everybody else's fanhood, it just gets less and less. It matriculates, and it's slowly. So the ratings might be good, but if your stadium begins to be unfilled, well, then the eyeballs just aren't going to matriculate there. Even myself sometimes, like, I feel like, oh, I got to get home to watch this game. And I'm like, I get home and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm not going to watch the game after making the trip down 322. And even though Mike, and I have a good spirited discussion about the game and we're driving together, you know what? I'm tired when I get back to Lancaster County. I'm not going to turn this game on because it's not the same. There's not like the intrigue. I'm not staying up till 10 o'clock to watch Reggie Bush play Fresno State, and Fresno State's close to, pulling off this wild upset and stuff like that. I think it's very much about like UEFA and FIFA in Europe with the whole Super League. That's what the Big Ten and the SEC feel like they're trying to do. And the rest of it, I mean, at some point, if we want to call the other conferences hooligans and their fans, fine, let them rise up. I'm all about that, because what the whole Super League concept was with the big money teams in Europe, I thought was atrocious, and
well, but I mean, the idea of it feels like the idea of promotion relegation generally is taking more hold in American sports than it ever did before. People are looking around the world and seeing that. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works in college football. I saw today, I read online a very detailed proposal that somebody had for a 72 team Super League. And this format would 4 divisions, and it would maintain the rivalries. It would maintain some geographical sanity and lessen the travel a little bit, but it would be nothing like the traditional model. It wouldn't feel like it. It wouldn't look like it. It wouldn't be like it. But it's entirely possible that could be the way we're headed. And this proposal actually made sense. But again, I think a lot of people are going to start to find this distasteful if we keep going down the road we're on.
Now, Super League, well, you just said 72 team. That sounds like Power 4 rather than just SEC and Big Ten. So the Super League concept in soccer was 12 of the richest clubs like PSG, Manchester.
Yeah, that's different. Yep, you're right.
So that was a little bit different. But I feel like SEC, Big Ten, that is more along the lines of just the elite, rich.
That would be like the Super League. Yeah.
And I can't get on that. I could get on to Power 4 running their own football stuff and branching out and doing things like that, but still keeping systems in place, kind of like what you're saying. But I don't know. I don't know where that leaves us as an industry either. If it, for what we do, as fandom starts to, wane based on this becoming a semi-pro and a breakaway entity rather than the whole college concept.
Yeah. Yeah, and a big piece of it is salary cap too, which would change recruiting and change the way you think. That would really make it more like an NFL model, but it might also curb the insane, uh, recruiting for the highest bidder element of it.
Speaking of that, what is going on with Chaz Coleman? Former Penn State edge, defensive end, follows Jim Knowles, the greatest defensive coordinator ever to wander the sidelines in college football. He goes to Tennessee, following in the steps of Bob Shoop-the-Loop and Tim Banks from Penn State to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Chaz Coleman is a no-show during spring, or very limited, I should say. And then you have, I guess, not working out in summer, and then you have reports that he's been dismissed. Then he's not dismissed. Nobody's confirming that. Ohio State former linebacker Bobby Carpenter is saying Tennessee didn't do their homework. There's a reason why he didn't come to Ohio State. They talked about him being homesick. To me, hey, if you're going to take the money and you're going to take the bag, homesick's not a reason to not be there. That's part of your payment. If you want to be close to home, you take less money because that's part of your compensation is work-life balance, and that's what college football is now, work-life balance for these guys that are taking money. So, Frank, what do you make of Chaz Coleman? I think Penn State really dodged a bullet here by him getting off of campus.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously he has some off-the-field issues. We don't know what they are or why they are, but we didn't hear of anything similar to this, at least that I ever heard going on when he was at Penn State. So I didn't know that there was, the only thing would be missing time, we were told he was injured, or we were thought to believe he was injured. Maybe was there anything more to that than just injuries? I don't know. A lot of freshmen get that type of situation. Quentin Martin, for example, I think it's hard for stars to come to college sometimes and deal with the physicality of the sport at that level, and then the mental approach and preparation. And that whole thing about, am I hurt or injured? Right. I think some guys can't always deal with that real well right away. So anyway, but the thing is, he's a tremendous talent. If you think of it now, Penn State having Chaz Coleman and Yvonne Kamaju, you could argue maybe two of the best young defensive end edge rushers in the country at the same age, same time frame. And, Chaz leaves and Yvonne stays. And here's the other thing, they paid Yvonne to stay. I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
But you can't pay everybody to stay at that level. So how does it work? Like you said, taking the bag, how much did Chaz Coleman want? Penn State can't give it all. And they decided maybe in a way, we're not going to give it to this guy. We're going to give it to the other guy. So I don't know right after the Ohio State game, when wasn't he shaking Ohio State coaches' hands and stuff?
People said a staffer. It was more like an usher who the kid's from Ohio. He probably knew him. I don't take anything. I was down on the field at Columbus because I was looking for Brian Hartline. I was searching. I got some good pictures of Brian Hartline. I took a picture of Darryl Clark. Darryl Clark promised to come on the podcast. Darryl, I'm going to keep holding you to that. I took a picture of Darryl Clark and Maurice Claret for Darryl on his cell phone. And I saw the interactions with Coleman, and I didn't think they were anything big. They're like, he's with the red coat. Yeah, it was an usher. A
freaking usher.
Trying to stir you up a little bit. Sorry.
A couple things here. I really we don't know that much about this. We should point out. I went on a Tennessee website today, their 24/7 site. I saw no reporting about this story. I saw a little bit of people talking about it in the chat rooms on that site. And also Lions 24/7, Penn State's 24/7 site had nothing about it, which you'd think. I don't see a lot of reporting here. I'm not sure if there's much to this. And And maybe it really is that he's homesick. It's funny because you have Kamaju and Max Granville and Coleman. Those three guys were all at Penn State, and I think Coleman kind of emerged as the guy who had the biggest upside, right? And then he ends up leaving, and now you wonder if Matt Campbell. I'm not saying there's any possibility of him coming back to Penn State, but you wonder if he would fit into what Matt Campbell sees as his family, his team-oriented situation. I don't know. I don't have any idea, but you got to wonder about those things. And we're doing a lot more wondering than knowing about this whole story. I'm not really sure what this is.
The guys on the Ohio State, the Bobby Carpenter show, it's Bobby Carpenter, and let me just pull it up. Steel Chambers, I think. They mentioned vertigo, about vertigo being a reason that Chaz Coleman having, and they even like that. They said like it's an old man disease. Like they're like that's got to be a lie. Was like one of the quotes on the show, and everything I'm reading about this is coming from a reporter that follows Tennessee, Zach Reagan, Tennessee Volunteers news writer. So we'll see, but there's been no reports of him actually being there. So if he's totally wrong in what's
there, that's right. Is he even there?
I guess that he's at home and he's working on, some stuff. Coleman's from Warren, Ohio. Campbell's from Massillon, Ohio. So if there is any, take back, give back, want to come back, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it could be worked out, but I think Penn State's probably, and Terry Smith in Matt Campbell's ear, who has a very big role, has probably given him the lowdown on everything that transcribed, Frank, as you were saying, like maybe there was something more to that injury type thing last year.
Well, I mean, COVID was a weird time that season too, when guys suddenly weren't playing and you didn't always know if they were injured truly or not. I mean, Jason Adafe-Owe, I mean, he didn't play the last 3-4 games of the year. He didn't even have a sack that year, I don't think. And he ends up still being a first-round draft pick in the NFL. Right. But you like, why wasn't he playing? I mean, was he really hurt?
Frank. Yeah,
was he not hurt? Cool. I mean, it just things like that stick with you, and you don't really know the answers, but you kind of get vibes that, okay, that's maybe not the right fit with the team.
I got to give you credit, Frank. You stuck with that COVID year. I kind of gave up with the turnover card the very first game against Indiana. Thank you for remember the turnover card? The guys holding it on the sidelines.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I remember the Indiana game. That was one of the craziest games possible, right?
On your screen right now is a picture of the turnover card. And here it is, guys. Indiana up 17-7. Jesse Lucchetta, I believe that's Jesse Lucchetta, holding a card that says, "We appreciate your contributions to a brighter future for us and our program. Good looking out." Signed, the Penn State defense. Of course, Michael Penix had other intentions in the end of that game. I'd have no problem with the call on the field. That was not a good 2-point conversion, but you can't blame the guy on the field for making the call.
I agree. It was not.
But yeah. So I pretty much gave up on the COVID season right after that. And just the way other things were going, there was the Nebraska game where it just got bad. There was a cheap shot from a Penn State player on a Nebraska guy behind the line on the O-line. Things really got bad.
I think the Maryland game that year was the worst performance I've seen Penn State. Worst game Penn State has played since I've been covering it. I could not believe how bad they were.
The worst since you covered them.
Wow.
And it is bad. I mean, it's bad considering that they usually beat Maryland by like some average of 40-3. And that was the other way around almost.
Yeah.
The worst game, the worst performance Penn State's given.
Now there might have been. It might have been this past season too. There might have been some candidates from this past season.
Well, yeah, when you're a 20-point favorite or more against
2 weeks
UCLA,
in a row, 24 or 28 or whatever it was, point favorites and lose. That might be just as bad. But I
think that probably matters more, Mike.
Yes.
Okay, let's throw it out there. The Maryland game, Penn State came out with 0 pulse. had nothing, no juice whatsoever at all, at least against UCLA. I'm not using the excuse flying across country, but they showed life at times, and it was just that neither side of the ball could put it together at the same time. You had block punts for a touchdown. You had big plays on offense. The defense did get timely stops where at one point you thought, holy crap, they're going to win this game. But against Maryland,
yeah, but nobody was at the stadium, man. No, how much care was there that day?
Oh, you're giving context here, and I'm just saying it was the worst performance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maryland was pretty bad. I mean, there were cutout cardboards in the student section. Yeah, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what does. I
just can't. I never remember being that. I can't believe they're this bad. I don't know. That one stands out for me.
Interesting. You'd pick that. I like that. That's making me think now. Okay. Next week or whenever we podcast again, I might have to have some thoughts on the worst Penn State.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I can think of a couple other ones now
that was pretty, at least the defense was there, right?
6-4 Iowa hopefully makes an appearance. It has at least to be in the discussion.
What does?
I guess
when
you're
6-4 Iowa.
That was such a bad game that it was funny. So many people said, like, how did you write about that one? That was the easiest one to write about ever. It was so funny and ridiculous.
Topic for next week's show, or 10 days from now, the worst Penn State game we remember, cover, anything else.
Yep.
Related to that. Speaking of that, Tony Johnson Jr., wide receiver Tony Johnson, his son at Penn State camping, hoping to get an offer. I could think of some of the worst officiating calls that involve Tony Johnson against Michigan. The ref literally put the divot down with his foot that Tony Johnson got inbounds, 2 feet inbounds, waved off incomplete, and the catch along the sidelines against Iowa, which was waved off, which would have given Penn State, if not a 3rd and short or 4th and short, a first down or something like that. Remember in the overtime game?
Which call was worse?
The Michigan game. I mean, there's so many in the Iowa game. Ed Hinkle made a fantastic catch. Bob Davies on the call, and Ed Hinkle's hand comes down out of bounds first. Automatically incomplete. Elbow comes down inbounds, but his hand's out of bounds first. Ball could have been waved off. Bob Davies going, that's it. That's a touchdown. It was a great catch by Ed Hinkle, but it shouldn't have counted. Then you had the replay. That was the game Penn State got back in throwing screens to Larry Johnson the whole second half. But yeah, that catch with Tony Johnson, that was the one I think Joe chased the official.
Yes. It was in overtime, and he chased him off the field, and that's literally. Right.
We should also point out, though, that there was early in that game, there was a play where they pitched it out to Larry Johnson, and he got corralled, and he fumbled, and they said it wasn't a fumble, and Iowa returned it for a touchdown. I mean, there was a call there that cost Iowa a touchdown.
Yeah, very, very poorly officiated.
That was a poorly officiated game. I think that's the theme we're
yeah. That was good. That was Dick Honing, I believe, on the game. Oh, I don't buy any referee supply from Honing's Whistle Shop. Come on, Big Ten.
Come on, Big Ten. You're better than that.
Now, we talked a lot about recruiting and super conferences and everything else. Going back into this topic from a different angle, it's hard to justify these conferences and these presidents and athletic directors crying poor about a system that's unsustainable when you're holding these meetings from these 5-star exclusive resorts that neither one of us, without selling our homes, are able to afford a couple nights at. A lot of national writers had, this is the resort, that this is where the SEC meetings are happening. Big Ten meetings are happening.
Yeah, the Big Ten too.
Doesn't that, and Mike, it goes back to your talk about, random people that normally wouldn't support government intervention in this. That kind of goes back to, we are the people being left behind, and it's these same people crying poverty at the university and in the ivory tower, but this system's unsustainable.
And again, people are talking about college football becoming more like pro sports. Well, this sort of in a small way, is an example of that. You expect the Major League Baseball owners to go have a meeting in some posh place. You expect the NFL owners to go have a meeting in some posh place. I don't remember the college. Maybe they did, and I just didn't make any note of it. And maybe nobody made any note of it. But I don't remember the conferences doing this kind of thing before, right? I know they met this time of year, but I didn't know they went away to some resort to do it. Whatever, but obviously it is going to start to look like economic injustice, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like just the expected road to me.
Yeah, par for the course.
Big guys get together and they're not going to go anywhere cheap, right?
They probably did do it in the past and I just didn't notice. I don't know, but it just, I was a little bit struck with that.
Hilton Sandestin Beach Golf Resort and Spa. Let me change that. We don't have to mortgage our house to go there. We could go there, but it is an exclusive place that's very expensive to go. So yeah, it's just, I just don't think there's a lack of connection, like with the actual fan bases that are powering these universities, the rabid fan bases and everything else like that, the average fan, and there's just a disconnect behind it. It might sound good on Twitter, break away, we could do this, we could do that, and I don't think in practicality any of that actually matters. So just my opinion. Anything else? I mean, college football playoff is, where are we on the 2014 playoff? I'm totally against it. I've seen talk of moving Ohio State, Michigan to the middle of the season. And to me, it's basically like you're throwing out all entire history. And you think about these great games recently and just go back the last 20 years, 2006, Ohio State, Michigan, game of the century, number 1 versus number 2. That game essentially means nothing in a 2014 playoff with what they're talking about.
Well, the only thing that has changed, I think we're all against it. I think I think any right-thinking person would discuss it. But the only thing that's changed since the last time we talked about this, and that I'm aware of, is that the SEC, their rhetoric has gotten a little softer. Sankey, the commissioner, has said, "Well, I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to hear more about it." And if the SEC goes, well, it's going to go. I think, because it sounds like the ACC and the Big 12 are relatively amenable, and the Big 10 is just all the coaches are standing in line and making a uniform front on it. So I guess it's slightly more likely now than the last time we spoke.
So what's the barometer now? It's not just making the playoffs, right? When you made the 14 playoff, it was, okay, you've had a successful season as a coach that may have been on a hot seat. Then out of the 12-team playoff, it was get in, maybe host the game, win the game, and get to the final 8 in the 12-team playoff, or however that was. What is the barometer now as a 2014 playoff? If you're Matt Campbell, let's just take it from a Penn State standpoint. For Matt Campbell not to be on the hot seat after 4 years, what does he have to do in a 2014 playoff format?
Well, you got to win. You got to win a game, right? Starting. And I think if you get in, but you can't win a game, that's as bad as not making the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right.
That's as bad as not. So that's the first point. Then I think if you're Penn State, a team like Penn State, though, that's the bare minimum. But I think, if you're Penn State, you have to challenge. I mean, you got to win a few games. You got to challenge. You got to go. You only got to the Final Four one time in all these years of playoff possibilities. So get back. You have to get back there if you're a team like Penn State.
How differently would the
matters? I don't think it matters if it's 24 or 12 in a sense for Penn State, for a school like that. I mean, the pressure is going to be on Matt Campbell or whoever's the head coach to get to the place where fans believe you should be, and you haven't been. I mean, they haven't had a chance for whatever reason to play for a national title, even close, really close to it in a sense, since 1994. And then they couldn't. You know, you could say they were close in other years, but right? I mean,
well, they were close in 24.
Right. That's it. But that's the only time.
05, 08, you know,
16.
Right, but I mean
16 if they'd have gotten in, which under this
here's the
format
thing.
they would have gotten in there almost every year under Franklin.
But here's the thing, they wouldn't have gotten in. I mean, they were good at, I think 05, you know, they were so regarded so highly for what they did and how they did it, but they weren't getting in to the playoff that year. I mean, maybe if they had more than 2 teams playing for it, yeah. But I mean, they weren't getting in, even if they were undefeated.
But it would have been a controversy if they'd have won that Michigan game.
But what? How much though? Would I mean?
Penn State I don't disagree with you, Frank, but it would have been a controversy. I mean, Joe,
it would have. Yes. Well, the controversy would have been simply that there should be a larger field.
Yeah.
Right. Not that Penn State's better than Texas or USC.
Right.
But that there should have been more of a chance for more teams. Like you can't have 3 undefeated teams that don't get a chance to play. Right. That's.
Yep.
And no argument could have been made against Paterno saying, oh, you're just saying this now because your team's in the position, because he voted for Auburn, remember, to be national champion in the years prior.
And what did they do? And then they
stripped
told him he couldn't vote anymore, so he said, okay, I'm not going to vote anymore. Isn't that how it happened? Something like that.
Pretty much. Yeah, he voted Auburn. Was it Auburn and USC? No, code number 1?
No, I thought he voted for Auburn.
I thought he voted both of them because they were both undefeated. I thought so, but he got stripped of his coach's poll vote. Yeah, and you know,
which is insane because coaches who are in that poll use it to advance their own little causes all the time. For example, Franklin and Narduzzi going at each other with using the poll as a weapon.
Yeah. The college football playoff schedule for this year starts December 19th with 3 games. Then your next game, 11 days later, or 12 by my math, the Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve, followed by the 3 other quarterfinals on January 1st, followed by a week off with the semis, and then a national championship game 10 days later in Las Vegas on January 19th. January 19th with the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, it's only a couple days. It's only off a little from last year.
It's
the same format as last year. Yeah.
But it's still getting a little bit later.
Yeah.
And then you're adding more teams into it with these with these long layoffs, 11 days, 12 days here.
You go to 24 teams, obviously it's going to be, yeah.
And should get longer, I would think. It's just
well, they'll start it earlier, right? I mean, if
they'll start it earlier, and they are talking about the conference championship games, which would be a necessity, which would be an okay thing, and would be a necessity if you go to 24.
Absolutely.
I'm just perplexed. I would, rather than the 24, I'd rather see conference championship games expanded to like conference championship weeks where there's a little bit of controversy between here. Let's have a little bit of a play in the here. So
you are on an island with this controversial proposal. Right?
It's unique. I know. And I don't know if it'll work because I haven't actually sat down and dug it out. And what you'd have to have is flexibility. And I don't think you'd come up with the same thing every single year. But for example, this past year, you could compare the SEC teams across Vanderbilt, Alabama. They never played. You have all these conference games, and these
that's
teams
even more true in the Big Ten.
And yeah, it's the same exact thing in the Big Ten. We're going 2 years ago. Penn State didn't play Indiana,
and it will be extremely that way this coming year. Even worse than ever. I mean, you have teams. Well, we've talked about this before. Penn State. I saw a way too early top 25 the other day.
Yep.
This guy had, I think it was a guy in the Athletic. He had Indiana 1, Oregon 2, Ohio State 3. All 3 teams are in the Big Ten, and Penn State doesn't play any of them. And Northwestern and Nebraska play all 3 of them.
3.
There you have it.
You're going to be doing the transitive property. Well, this team beat these 3 teams by so many
That's
points.
That's right. We'll be wearing out the transitive property. That's something to look forward to.
So, Frank, anything?
Conference championship games are a nuisance anymore. I don't think they play. I mean, they make a lot of money. They're hard to get rid of, but in the age of 12-team playoffs, since we really got into playoffs, who cares about them anymore? Yeah. They don't mean anything.
And think about it. The best thing to happen to James Franklin to be able to claim he made the college football semifinals was to lose the Big Ten championship game. And people were out there saying, no, go out and grab the number 1 seed. Go out and grab the number 1 seed so you could play the team you've beaten once in 12 years or 11 years.
They really took advantage of a big flaw in the
massive.
But beyond that, I just don't think they have. I mean, when you have the playoffs sitting in front of you, what do? I mean, they're just. It's a different age. They had a purpose in a different time. I don't think they serve a competitive, fan-related purpose anymore.
I agree, but if they go to 16, that will probably not eliminate the conference championship game.
No,
they'll probably only get rid of them if they go to 24.
And then we got to go to 24.
Oh, stop.
Do you remember the first championship game?
The first Big Ten championship game?
The first conference championship game in football.
Championship game, any conference. No, I don't.
Yeah. It was the SEC. It was the SEC. I just pulled it up. Number 2 Alabama against number 12 Florida at Legion Field in Birmingham. So think about where things have come from Legion Field in Birmingham to the palaces that these are played in today. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Lucas Oil. I'm sure the Big Ten would move theirs eventually to this new palace being built in Chicago. It would make sense if the Bears get that and they're still around. I mean, what a moment. 28-21, and Alabama was going to lose that game until a miracle play. Shows done on this about the commissioner thinking, what have I done? I cost Alabama a chance at the national championship game. And it was Florida quarterback Shea Matthews got intercepted by Antonio Langham. I remember the play. I didn't know the people, and he returned it for a game-winning touchdown. And it secured Alabama's chance to go play for the national championship, and they beat Miami in 1992. And they should have done. But I do remember that game, or at least seeing the game some point in my life and just watching it and be like, this is the first time, and you would be feeding your number 2 team to the wolf, which is kind of what happens now at times with these conference championship games. We could talk about Kansas and Missouri in the Big 12. A couple of that times it's happened in the Big 12. USC it happened to with Utah not making the playoff. Utah going to the Rose Bowl. So I do like the championship games when they're actually pay off like they should be. Intriguing matchups that there is something to play for.
Yeah, but I think Frank is right. They make less and less sense as with all of the ways that the sport has changed.
Right.
The playoff getting bigger, the conference is getting bigger. So you don't even there's no way to guarantee that the best 2 teams in the conference are playing each other in the conference championship game. I'm not sure I think it's an idea that maybe its time has come.
I think it worked. I think it meant something when they still had through the 14 playoff. You look back to 2016 when Penn State was there. I mean, that was still important. But once you got beyond that, I just don't think the value holds up. And they're still just pushing it through because they've done it and there's a lot of money. But I don't think I think that's an easy getaway. I mean, if you somehow you have to expand all these teams in this playoff, that's an easy way to make things kind of work, so to speak. Get rid of that thing.
And all of the powers that be seem to be in favor of that if they go to 2014.
Yeah.
Let me ask, Frank, you're the most reasonable one out of all of us. I know I'm the most outlandish one. Mike is somewhere in the middle between us. Do you think that when conference expansion was being talked, and this is the last topic I'm throwing at you guys, do you think when conference expansion was being talked about initially, that there were, I don't want to say backroom deals, but there were ideas for the scheduling that there would be ways to protect your blue bloods and your perceived torchbearers of the conference with the scheduling, aka Penn State not playing Ohio State, not playing Oregon in the same year as long as Michigan. It's almost like you have one or two matchups and you're not ever going to have really like a loaded schedule that you possibly could have when you were playing the majority of teams in your conference back when there was 11 teams in the Big Ten and only 12 in the SEC.
I don't know. I mean, you're talking about when the expansion went to 18 in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
When you say expansion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's so hard. I think the more teams you add, it's harder and harder to come up with a schedule that makes any sense. And then you have to throw in the fact that some of your teams now are make cross-country trips. That makes it more difficult. So how do you make it even, so to speak? I mean, Penn State fans would complain for years about how every one of their league openers was on the road. I mean, how they were getting screwed by this. And
yeah,
I mean, so this year it just happens to, I don't know. Really, do you think Penn State is given some built-in advantage somehow? I mean, who when these schedules are thought, was Indiana supposed to be national championship team? So missing Indiana was, if you missed Indiana, you thought, well, that's a bad thing for most of life, right? You wanted to play Indiana. So all of a sudden now they became really good in 2 years. I don't know how does that even factor into this, right? Because
but this schedule right now was I think was made since Indiana has been good, right?
I just don't. I don't
know how to do it, to be honest with you.
I don't believe in a conspiracy theory right off.
I don't either. Well, I think what Andrew is saying is, did they have this in mind when they started this expansion? And I would suspect not. I don't think so. I think the SEC just wanted to get Oklahoma and Texas because they're Oklahoma and Texas. Holy crap, we can get them. And I think that's how they thought about that. And let's worry about the details later. However, as things evolved, I think it's possible that the people running these conferences say, hey, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity where we can mess with the schedule, and there's enough mystery about how it works that we can get away with it. I don't think that's crazy.
It just seems convenient. It's like, and I'm just going to use Penn State as an example. Oh, Penn State's going to have Ohio State and Oregon as their two marquee matchups, but Michigan will be off the schedule. Washington will be off the schedule. And USC will be off the schedule that year. It just seems that nobody really gets, the 3 and 4 really quality marquee teams. Now, Nebraska being down, I do think kind of hurts that, because you would want Nebraska to be up there as that's a solid third matchup for a team, and Wisconsin and everything like that. It just seems convenient in the Big Ten that if you're a school, you're pretty much playing 2 matchups a year, maybe a third one.
But again, those 3 teams that everybody agrees are at the very top of the Big Ten right now, it's remarkable. I think there's 5 teams, including USC, and Northwestern is one, and Nebraska is one, who play all 3 of those teams. And then there's a few teams, including Penn State, who play none of them.
None of them.
I mean, how do you do that? A couple of years ago, Washington was in the national title game. Well, they're nowhere near that at that point, but that changed within a couple of years. I mean, Michigan for years was like, Penn State can't beat them. They're so good. I mean,
this schedule was put together this year, wasn't it?
Right. But the point is things change so quickly now.
I think the Matrix was a couple years ago. Matrix was a couple years ago. Oh, okay. And Indiana didn't even have their one good season. I don't think Signetti was the coach yet when this Matrix was done. I think the Matrix was done out to 2027 for the one point. No, it's just something to think about. And I think it hurts the Big Ten when it comes to discussion that some of the Big Ten teams don't have another marquee game on their schedule. The SEC, because a lot of their teams are overhyped, they do get that third marquee game, at least in terms of
perception. Difference in perception. Yeah, that the SEC, even if you don't get Alabama or Georgia, you're still having a tougher week in, week out grind. That's the perception.
Yes.
I think there's something to it, but I'm not sure it's.
Yeah, and that's all I'm getting at with the Big Ten. I'd like to see the Big Ten almost fix the schedule is kind of what I'm getting at. That an Ohio State plays we'll throw Indiana in there now. Indiana, Washington, USC, Michigan, Penn State. That Ohio State plays 3 out of those 5 and have all 5 of those teams play 3 out of the 5 is kind of what I'm getting at. So
I hear you.
That'd be a better schedule for fans, and that's what this should be about. So anything. We didn't even talk about James Franklin saying spend more time with the local media. We didn't even talk about
that. We'll get to that. That's interesting. I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I mean, in the subsequent show, we'll get to that.
My favorite James Franklin quote all the time was, besides that we are a part of all the wins in the media room, thank you for being a part of it, is these are the stories I wish the media would tell. Well, those are the stories a lot of times that were always requested, like a cello playing wide receiver that volunteers with foster kids. That's not a quote. That's not a story we would like to be told at this time. That frequent email back.
That thought immediately jumped into the brain of everybody in that room when he said what you just said.
Yep. All the time. Shoveling snow.
Come on, James.
Yep. But we're not ESPN, so we weren't good enough to tell the story. Yeah, spend more time with the local media. That's the closing words. Frank, anything?
No, I just can't wait until we have some more actual events and things coming up.
Me too. I'm ready. I'm ready for some stuff. Let's go. I think it's coming.
Waiting for an email for a June availability maxed out. I want to go up there, test it out a little bit.
The Live for Life, July 1st, but I think there's going to be an availability. In recent years, there have been an availability in June that was not related to the Live for Life, and I hope there will.
I don't think they're having one this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think they are.
Oh, that's too bad. Anyway.
Depressing. More time for golf. Support your local super and pro shop attendees, people. That does it for this edition. Make sure you reach on out to us. Thanks for all your comments on Spotify and YouTube as well. Really appreciate them. If I'm late getting back to them, I apologize. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulties last week, but we're back better than ever. That does it for this edition of Blue White Tailgate Podcast. We'll see you in a couple days.
Okay.